I am very pleased to present our guest speaker, Betty Bland. As you know, Betty is the national president of the Theosophical Society in America. Is also a national lecturer for the society. She's going to have a talk today on the 7 rays as ways of being different together. She says, "Together differently" was a phrase first coined by George Arundale, a former international president of the society, to indicate the possibility for people of diverse cultural and religious backgrounds coming together in a sense of cooperation and unity. Please welcome Betty Bland.
Do I need to cut my little thing on?
It's on.
Is it on? Okay. I'll wait till he switches the mic.
It's on.
Okay, it's on. I'm on. First of all, it's very nice to be in Atlanta, and as you can tell, this is more my home turf than Chicago. And at least yesterday you gave me great welcome with the first day of spring, with sunshine and birds chirping and flowers, and I loved it. And I also have to say that I was doing something strange. I was eating an orange for breakfast while I was trying to put my contacts in. And I accidentally ate my contact. So I'm not used to wearing glasses, and I keep thinking I've got sunglasses on, like I've got to take them off so that I can see you better, but then I couldn't read. So if I seem a little disjointed, you'll know why. Usually it's the dog ate my homework, but this time I ate my contact. As far as about John Algeo, I did see him Friday, and he was hoping to be able to come here, but just a month after surgery, heart surgery, it was a little bit more than he realized, and so he couldn't come, but that's how much he would like to be back and to see everybody. This has been, of course, a very difficult time for him, and we all send him our best, and time and busyness are the things that will help him get over it. So your thoughts and prayers are greatly appreciated. But he was very glad to get to see me and to have some conversation. I think it was about the first time he'd been out of the house, so he was glad to get out. Also, I would like to just comment that I bring greetings from the National Center, and we have so many resources that I hope that you will partake of, particularly from the web. You will be able to access many of the IP3 downloads if you do that kind of thing. I'm not an iPod person, but many lectures and videos, and our entire library is online, so you can check on things that are online, and then order from the bookstore. Can you can't hear me?
You're fine.
Okay, I'll try to project a little bit, or you can turn the volume up a little. Oh, okay. Okay, because I know sometimes I can speak with a soft voice. Just a little bit. Maybe that's a little better.
Move the microphone a little closer to us. Would that be okay?
Oh, am I having several microphones here?
Oh, yes.
3 mics. Okay, now is that better? Okay. Boy, it takes 3 to get my voice out there, doesn't it? Anyway, we have many resources I hope that you will check out at www.theosophical.org, and of course all members are able to check books out from the library by mail. That was one of the greatest gifts that I found when I first came to the Theosophical Society. Is I lived in Mount Gilead, North Carolina. And you probably don't know where that is, but there wasn't anything available there, and to have the books available by post was a major gift to me. And we have many other things on the web as well, and we hope you'll come to our National Center and visit us. Benny was just saying that he had met me at Lake Geneva, so that was quite a few years ago. And so I look forward to seeing you in many ways, and hope you'll have contact with us. So let me tell you about this program that we're going to have today. And it's called the 7 Rays, Ways of Being Different Together. And it actually, this is a way of channeling John Algeo, because John Algeo put this talk together and then was not able to deliver it and sent it to me. And he had put in so many bells and whistles with his PowerPoint that I thought that you might enjoy it. He has learned to do his daughter Kate taught him how to do a lot of different things with the PowerPoint. So I think it's a nice presentation, and it gives us a lot of information about the rays in a very practical way. So this is the 7 rays as ways of being different together, and John Algeo put this together. So the 7 rays are a distinctive and characteristic theosophical teaching. That's one of the first places you've probably heard of the 7 rays, but there are parallels to the 7 rays in all the mythologies of the world, and but the specific ideas of the rays come from theosophical teachings and early theosophical literature. And the 7 rays are ways of characterizing differences, and as you see with the rainbow, they're different colors, but it's also one band of white light. So it's ways of being together, and it takes all the colors to make the white light. So it's very important to understand them and to work together. And of course, if we're going to be effective people in the world, we have each of the 7 rays within ourselves, so we have to understand some of the many aspects of ourselves that we're blending together. So they show us how we're different from each other, but also how we can be together and be complete in society. So the information in the presentation is based on, I might have clicked that too soon, I think, is based on 4 major writers, T. Subbarao, and I think I'll go back to this one. It's on the bottom there, T. Subbarao. He was an early colleague of Blavatsky, and H.P. Blavatsky herself, and then C.W. Leadbeater, who first tried to make the subject more understandable, and Ernest Wood is the one who wrote the classic book on the 7 rays. So everybody who has dealt with the subject after that has sort of used these as their basic texts. Now the term 7 rays, as I mentioned, is a metaphor for a way to divide the color spectrum. And for example, in a rainbow we have 7 distinct colors, but the color spectrum does not exist in specific bands of color, but rather continuums. And as we were discussing in the members class earlier, in these continuums, sometimes you divide things in different ways. But actually there's a very systematic way of dividing the rays into 7, and I think you will see that as we go through the presentation. And the 7 rays are distinctively theosophical, but they have parallels in all the world's religions and mythologies, and so we'll bring in many of those. Christianity has the 7 archangels who stand before the throne of God, and the Jewish mysticism of the Kabbalah has the 7 Sephiroth, or numbers, in the world, plus 3 supernal ones, from which the 7 come. Hinduism has the 7 rishis, or ancient wise teachers. Tibetan Buddhism has the 7 shohans, or celestial lords of light. Zoroastrianism has the 7 Amisha Spentas, or holy immortals, who are aspects of the divine. And Shintoism has 7 gods of good luck, who are very popular figures in Chinese mythology. Wait, I won't go back to these. These 7 gods of good luck are a real favorite. They are a jolly bunch who travel together in this ship of life on a stormy sea of existence. And note that although all of them are different, they're all together, and it takes all 7 of them working together to keep the ship of life afloat and on course. And that's the way it is with the 7 rays too. And these jolly gods all look so different to me that I wonder how they can even get the ship going. It makes me remember the idea of Chinese fire drill when we would all get out of the car and run around. So each of the 7 rays is traditionally represented by an icon, that would be a human figure, and identified with a certain activity. And each ray also corresponds to each of the 7 principles, and we were talking about the 7 principles in the members class that are within us and throughout the cosmos. And although the 7 principles use Sanskrit terms, we'll use both the Sanskrit and the English so that it's more understandable. So the first ray was originally said to be the king, but since we don't use king so much, we'll say leader. And not just a political leader, but also a person who opens the way to new things, like an explorer, an inventor, or an innovator. And it corresponds with the Atma, or the essential self, the highest self, whose function is to lead us in our evolutionary journey. And the second ray is that of the teacher, but not just the classroom teacher, but one who sets the example, and by that example teaches us how to live. Certainly it corresponds with the buddhi, or intellect, and the intellect. John always liked the way words come together, and it means collecting or gathering together, and so the intuition or judgment gathers together the right ideas for the right choice. And the third ray is that of philosopher and a philanthropist, a lover of wisdom, a lover of humanity, and it typifies all the humanities concerned with values and things that are good for it, and it would correspond to mind, or manas, or mind. And it's the defining principle that makes us Homo sapiens, or wise humans. And the fourth, or middle ray, is that of the artist. And art is the mediating activity between material and spiritual. It draws the inspiration and puts something on paper or in clay or even in music that is the connecting force. And it comes, the Greek word, it affirms the beautiful order of the universe, such as cosmos relates to the same term as cosmetic, and orderliness, cosmic. And it corresponds with jiva, the vital energy of life, and the one manifestation of which is prana, and we talked about prana. The fifth ray is that of the scientist, the one who studies the material world by observation with the senses, with mathematics to form explanations of how things work, and the ray corresponds to the sthula sharira, the dense form of things, such as the physical body, and such forms are of objects of scientific study. The sixth ray is that of the devotee, the religious person, but it's not just the religious person, but it's people who are dedicated to any particular principle or ideal, such as military people, for instance.
Show up on the screen.
I didn't do it. There you go. Sometimes that thumb has to push, doesn't it? So it corresponds to desire or passion. Anyone who follows something with a passion, and also hierarchical functioning, following with a passion. And then the last one is the seventh ray, and that is the ritualist. And it's not just religious ritual. Well, I clicked it too many times, didn't I? All right, I must have. Let's go back here. All right. This gets carried away with itself. The seventh ray is also any traditional actions, habitual actions, and it can also relate to masonry, etiquette, the way you do things, the Japanese tea ceremony, and the way we shake hands and say hello to each other. And it corresponds to the linga sharira, or etheric double. That is the orderly form for the pattern of material reality. We were talking about that as well. Now we'll go. So the seven rays as metaphor. We talked about, for instance, that the rays make up the one white light and from the sun, and that they correspond to the colors we see in the rainbow. But the order of the rays of the do not match the way we see the spectrum. The rays are generative forces that are associated with seven sacred planets. So it also will connect with the planets. And we'll consider them in the spectrum order. And some of these you may be surprised at what the color and planet and ray is. So the first one we will go to, it should click here. Ooh! This little thing here gets carried away here. Let's go back. Oh! Okay, let's see. This is a very sensitive one. Okay, here we go. Red is the color of the sixth ray of kama, or desire, so that seems intuitive. The force of emotion, and the planet is Mars, the red planet. And you can think of Mars as the planet of war energy. Let's see if I can do it real quick. Okay. Orange is the color of the second ray and of Bodhi or intellect, the force of spirituality, and Mercury is the planet. And it is the color of the robe of Buddhist monks. You can remember it that way. See if I can get it real quick. This is sort of a strange thing here. Yellow is the color of the fourth ray of Jiva or vitality, the force of harmony, and its essential vitality. Harmony is essential to vitality and of the sun, and it is the source of life-giving energy. And that would be associated with prana as well. We talked about that. Okay, I'm afraid of this thing. Green is the color of the fifth ray of the Sthula Sharira, or dense physical body, the force of materiality, Saturn. And green is the color of nature, in whose matter is the study of science, the material. And blue is the color of the first ray of Atma, or the essential self, that leads us. It's the leader of the force of consciousness, of innovation, of Jupiter, and true blue is associated with the highest. The next color is indigo, the third ray of Manas, or mind, the force of cognition, and of Venus. The term indigo comes from India and suggests the deep ocean from which Venus arose. And you remember we hear the indigo children, and they're supposed to be associated with higher mind. This is very frustrating. I might end up having to get somebody to I might have to have somebody just punch them for me, because yeah. How about just you would
You
just
show me what
this,
to do, I don't mind
yeah,
doing it.
yeah. I
Don't
think,
move the table.
yeah. I don't know how
Can you
much.
put your chair over here?
Sure,
Yeah.
no problem.
And I can just tell you when to push it, because this automatic thing isn't working very well. Just one, this one right here. No, this
That
one.
goes forward
Yeah.
and then this goes back.
Or this one, yeah,
That's back.
yeah.
And that's forward. Okay,
Yeah.
no problem.
Okay, good.
My pleasure.
Thank you. All right, so we have mentioned that violet then is the color of the seventh ray, the model form, and the force of the unconscious tradition and of the moon. So these seven colors are different one from another, and yet they comprise the white light, which is the sun. So the seven rays are principles that are in each of us, and yet in different proportions. And to be able to gather ourselves together differently, to the best advantage, we have to use all of these principles within ourselves. Okay, one click. The term seven rays is a metaphor, and so to explore where the rays come from, and what are they literally, and if they're important to us in the world around us, what are they? And so they are forces that generate the universe and everything in it. As already suggested, they are generally seven different forces that work together. And so we'll look at these seven forces. And you wonder, why seven? So think about this, and then we'll go to the next frame. to go back to the background, the unmanifest and manifestation. At the basis of everything in the manifested universe is the unmanifest absolute, and in Sanskrit it's called the PARABRAHM, the void, because we don't know how to talk about it, and yet HPB wrote books about it. And also the plenum, because it is the source of everything. So it is both full and the void. And in Greek, it's called, Greek Gnosticism, it's called the silence. And that Greek word is pronounced sige, and it is the source of everything, called the ground. We cannot see the absolute or experience it directly, but it comes from three primordial aspects, okay? The first of those primordial aspects is consciousness or ideation. And there is an old saying that consciousness came first. And the next one is substance, mula prakriti. But consciousness needs something to be conscious of, so that the second primordial aspect is mula prakriti, or root matter, which is the object of consciousness. And neither one can exist without the other. And these two imply the other. They are like love and marriage, or horse and carriage, they go together. The third, you can click the third, yeah, is the energy that HPB call fohat. And energy or fohat, you can click it again, yeah, is the result of the interaction of consciousness and substance. And so it is related to both of those, and these three are the primordial aspects of the Trinity at the basis of all manifestation, and are personified in many of the world's religions as Mother, Father, Son, consciousness, substance, and fohat. Okay, and why are they exactly 7 rays? Not 6, not 8. We were talking about mathematical realities. It is a basis of mathematics that the 3 become 7. So a click, if you start with any of 3 items, say A, B, and C, there are exactly 7 ways that you can combine one with another. Each of the 3 can be taken alone, separately, and another click, each of them can be taken with another one, and then all 3 can be taken together. And these are the 7 ways that you can combine these 3 primordial aspects. We can apply this mathematical fact of 7 ways to combine 3 to the rays themselves. So we think of the 3 primordial aspects to produce the 7 rays: consciousness, substance, and energy, you remember. Consciousness alone produces the first ray, which is the force of conscious innovation. Substance alone produces the 5th ray, which is the force of materiality. Energy alone produces the 6th ray, which is the force of emotion. The word emotion means to stir up or move out, and that's what energy does. Then consciousness and energy combine together, and their combination is the 2nd ray, or spirituality, the force of spirituality. The 2nd ray, buddhi, is the energy of consciousness. And then next, consciousness and substance combine, and their combination is the 3rd ray, which is the force of cognition, applying consciousness to substance. And then substance and energy combine together, and their combination is the seventh ray, which is the force of unconscious tradition. Tradition is an energy or a way of doing things with respect to the substance or material world, and it is unconscious because the primordial aspect of consciousness is not involved. It becomes a traditional way of doing things. And then last, all three aspects combine together, and their combination produces the fourth ray, which is the force of harmony. And harmony combines and balances all things, and that is the fundamental fact of life, which is the fourth ray principle. So then the seven rays or generative forces within their corresponding principles can be seen in the hexagram or a six-sided figure. We can place the first ray at the force of conscious innovation, and Atma at the peak of the hexagon, and at the bottom, we're already at the bottom here, its balancing opposite, the seventh ray, the force of unconscious tradition, and Linga Sharira, there at the bottom. So you've got conscious and then unconscious. And then next is the second ray, the force of spirituality, and the Bodhi belong on the right-hand side of the ray. And remember, the way this is drawn, you're looking at it as if in a mirror. So if you were standing here, it's on the right-hand side. And the fifth ray, the force of materiality, are complementary and opposite of the second ray, Bodhi. And the third ray, the force of cognition, and manas are on the left-hand side of the first ray. And so these are the upper three, Atma, Buddhi, and manas, in the upper triangle. The principles of our higher individuality. And the sixth ray, the force of emotion, and the kama are opposite to the third ray, emotion or materiality. To know, to feel, to think, and to emote are complementary. To know and to feel and then to emote are complementary. And notice that the lower three, kama, sthula, sharira, and linga sharira, or emotion, materiality, and the unconscious tradition, are three principles in our lower personality, and we talked about this in our discussion too. Finally, at the midpoint of the hexagram is the fourth ray, the force of harmony, the jiva or life force, prana, and life is the center of everything in manifestation. So then you have your four lower quaternary here. And note that the first ray, innovation, and the seventh ray, tradition, are two forms of action. That is, ways of behaving in the world. And the second ray, spirituality, and fifth ray, materiality, are two forms of orientation, thinking either in terms of material or spiritual. And then likewise, the third ray, cognition, and sixth ray, emotion, are two forms of reaction or ways of responding to our perception, thinking and feeling. And, wait, don't go back. Yeah. Note that these three modes of dealing with the world by orientation, action, and response, as well as the six rays they connect, are all balanced in the middle with harmony or jiva, the energy and the balance. Okay.
It's interesting because 4 is green, and green was actually the color green and black of Jesus in the line of Jesus. That whole line of David that was inherited by the Merovingians was green, and it was also the Assyrian colors. So you've got the mediating principle that combines it all in harmony in the
Is-
center.
Is
Harmony, the fourth ray.
okay. I was trying to remember. Was that green? I always.
Green.
Okay. Okay.
Attention because
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is, and the more you look at these, and I've worked with them a lot, but then I have to go back and look at my list to be sure I've got them right, because it's hard to remember because they all sort of so interact with each other. So now we can get to the chakras, the ray forces and principles. And we can relate the 7 rays and principles to the chakras. And the numbers of the chakras from top to bottom, and this we'll just go through quickly. The crown is Atma, or the first ray. And then the chakras, you can go down the various ones, Buddhi, Manas, Jiva, harmony, energy, and materiality, emotion, and finally unconscious tradition, the unconscious but the habitual. So now we'll go through this again, and we'll look along some of the symbols and icons that go with each of these rays, and I think this fills them out more and gives you more of a full sense of the ray. So its planet is Jupiter, and its god is, Hindu god is Shiva. Its great religious figure is Zoroaster, who was a major innovator in spiritual thought and practice, and he greatly influenced Judaism and Christianity and Islam. And then its animal symbol is the winged lion, and it's associated with ruling royalty such as Queen Victoria, Queen Elizabeth I of England. It's also the ray of explorers, astronauts on the moon, Spanish conquistadors, and it pertains also to heroic revolutionaries such as Simon Bolivar or Annie Oakley. And moreover, it's the ray of inventors, and the middle,
Sorry, lost my head there.
Yeah, I got carried away. See, you're as bad as this little thing here. And Thomas Edison is the middle one that came in because it's the ray of inventors. And all of these figures, whether in history or in imaginary, they're all leaders in some way. Next we come to the 7th ray, and its planet and goddess is the moon, or Luna. Its great religious figure is Solomon, who built the temple in Jerusalem, and it's a central figure in Freemasonry, and its animal is the winged bull. And this ray represents the border between the conscious and unconscious. Its foundations, the ray between the conscious and its foundation, the unconscious. So as orderly tradition, the 7th ray can be represented by the Indic mandala, the Japanese torii, that's the gate up there on the top, the ritual gate leading to every Shinto shrine. And as the foundation of all things, it corresponds to the 5 Platonic solids, perfectly regular 3-dimensional forms that are the building blocks of the universe. The Japanese tea ceremony is a very traditional way of functioning, and the Egyptian formality use this ray. The Egyptian myth of the sun, who both separates and joins the female and heaven and male earth, is a mythological expression of this ray, and that's down here, you see. Mm-hmm. And Also, I think it's so interesting that they have the female heaven and the male earth. Did you get that? It's a reverse of what we have. And so, also it's represented by the practical reality of the architect, builder, and builder who create and follow a plan of construction. And it is that of mysticism and fantasy, and you know that John Algeo does love mysticism and fantasy, like Glinda the Good of Oz, and the wizards like Harry Potter's Albus Dumbledore and his Phoenix belong here.
Would this be like the master masons, the builder?
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And what was the name of his Phoenix? Dumbledore's Phoenix. This is a trivia question.
Fawkes. Was it Fawkes?
Fawkes. Yeah, Fawkes.
F-A-L-K-E-S.
Yeah, yeah, very good, very good. And finally, yeah, and ritual Freemasonry with its building tools and square and compasses. You see that sign over there. Okay, you can go to the next one. The second ray is the ray of spirituality and intellect, and it has the following. Mercury is its planet, and the divine personification is Hermes Trismegistus, who is the thrice greatest, the legendary author of the Hermetic texts. And the great spiritual teacher is the Buddha. You're getting a little bit ahead of me. Who explained the wheel of the law on the Eightfold Noble Path, which you get the circle here. And then next is the God, Brahma, who creates all equally and is the universal parent. And the classical goddess is Athena or Minerva. And one of the great themes of this ray is the unity of all life, the equality of all human beings, and the compassionate empathy that links us all together in the great cycle of existence. And you know, Jesus was often said to be of the second ray, and that would be this sense of compassionate empathy that I think Jesus so greatly personified. Okay, and the fifth ray, the green materiality. So that's green. What did we say? The the fourth ray was yellow. That's what I thought. Almost like a white light. Yeah, that was sort of, okay, my mind isn't as bad as I thought it was. And we understand that material world itself is very valuable. We couldn't even have our life and progress if we didn't have the material world to function in. And it consists of contrasting and complementing figures such the yin and yang of existence.
Sorry, I was looking for that yin and yang.
Okay, that's all right. Saturn is the planet and god of this ray because Saturn or Cronus is also the god of time. And he is associated with numbers and the main tool of science. And then we have scientists such as Einstein and laboratory workers here in this ray, and technicians who are concerned with numbers, measurements, matter. They typify this. All of us have seen about as many on the keyboard as we want. We deal with that all the time. Electricians, mechanical engineers, computers, and so forth. Detectives like Sherlock Holmes. Elementary, my dear Watson. And mathematicians from the days of the Greeks to the present are fifth ray activists. And this ray also includes those who glory in the sensual beauty of forms And this is something I have run across and dealt with before. Art is seen in two rays, both in the material world, such as form and regularity, and also in the balance and harmony. So not all art is in the fourth ray. And Botticelli's painting of Venus rising from the sea. I think that's somewhere in there. Okay, and then the third ray is the ray of cognition and mind, especially with values, progress, and the humanities. Its ray is Venus. Its planet goddess is Venus. The Hindu god is Vishnu, who incarnates among human beings as a divine human. And the great spiritual teacher is Confucius, who emphasized the importance of humane studies and is known in China as the first teacher, but it was always in relation to society. All scholars, those who in Chaucer's words gladly learn and gladly teach, are in the third ray. Philanthropists or humanitarians also belong here. The Good Samaritan who helped the person in need, those who give advice and guidance, who help others to climb the golden stairs, are in the third ray. It's not exclusively intellectual because nurses and health professionals belong here because they serve to improve the human condition. Okay, now to the sixth ray. The sixth ray of devotion, hierarchy, loyalty, and obedience complements the third ray. It is very diverse in its nature of those who exhibit its quality. We often think of the sixth ray devotion as being a little bit sweet, but actually, as I mentioned before, it has the planet of the ray is Mars, and that there's a lot of energy in it because it relates to devoted obedience. It can be soldiers, military people, and it's also the ray of religious devotees, particularly those in the Abrahamic traditions. In the Jewish Bible, the sin for which Adam and Eve were expelled from Eden was disobedience. They didn't obey. And Abraham's obedience, he was tested by God, who ordered him to kill his son. Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane said, "Not my will, but thine be done." So there's a lot of obedience here. And Islam means submission. But outside the Abrahamic tradition or the guru and chela relationship, so there's a lot more to it than a nun in silent adoration. And all bureaucracies, secular hierarchies belong here. So business people, and many of us then have been forced into being some aspects of the sixth ray that we haven't particularly liked as we've had to deal in business hierarchies. They belong here. And then, but on the other hand, so do family relationships. Devoted loyalty between family members, that's sixth ray. The wife and husband, parent and child, one sibling and another. That's also this devotional ray. So it's a very complex ray. All of them are, actually. And finally, the fourth ray, the central ray of harmony and vitality that seeks to balance and reconcile all of them. Its planet is the sun, which that makes a lot of sense, which is the source of life. And its classical god is Apollo, the god of the sun and also of art. And you remember Apollo with his chariot driving the sun across the heavens. Its great spiritual teacher is Krishna, shown here with his beloved. And one of its symbols is the Tai Chi, which unifies opposites, the yin and the yang. all art is fourth ray, except that is dealing with the physical exactness of things. So they cross over here from the fourth to the fifth. Sculpture, painting, dance, music. And judges who seek to reconcile differences or peacemakers would be fourth ray, and so are the diplomats who work for peace, harmony among nations. And the great central sun reminds us that our differences are united when we work together around all the other rays. So you can click it one more time. There they have the great central sun, and then click it again. The first ray of the innovative self derives from primordial consciousness. This is in summary. And the fifth ray of materiality derives from primordial substance. And the sixth ray of emotion, desire, derives from energy. And those are the three primary rays and principles, because each derives from a single primordial aspect. And then the second ray of spiritual intelligence is from primordial consciousness and energy. The third ray is cognitive mind, from primordial consciousness and substance. And then the seventh ray from primordial energy and substance. And those are the three secondary rays and principles, because each derives from a combination of the two. And in the central sun is the mediating fourth ray, harmonious vitality, and it is the tertiary ray because it derives from all three aspects. And so the seven rays and the seven principles, with their associated characteristics, are all different from each other. They and their combinations in infinitely variety of proportion illustrate the abundance and difference of existence, and yet they all fit together and work together and are so intertwined that they all rely on each other. So if we're to really live rich and full lives, we both have to use all of the rays within ourselves, as well as appreciate the rays of other people that might be somewhat different from ourselves. That's one of the key issues to think about with the rays. And so you can click it one more time. The community of the rainbow, we might call ourselves. We're the children of the rainbow, which consists of different rays, and we're members of the community, and that community has an abundance of different people and different qualities. You can click it one more time. With one community, all those differences can live together, and this is the promise of the seven rays, that we can live together differently and richly. Okay, and that is the end.